Mr. Robbie Owens.
What's up, brother?
How are you doing, sir?
Good. How's it sound over there?
It sounds really good. I'm glad you got a nice setup going on.
Yeah, man. So, do you usually have your camera on 1080p or 720 or what?
I'd usually do in 1080.
Okay, you look really clear. So,
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, that's good to know. Thank you. So, the cool thing about interviewing you, I think, for me is going to be that we don't really know each other hardly at all yet. You did send me a short synopsis, but I kind of purposefully didn't read into it too deeply because I wanted the opportunity to just kind of get to know you. So if you want to start, even go back before the handyman business and just let me know who you are. And then we'll get into talking about what led you into the handyman business, what your history's been there and stuff.
sure, man. Let's see. Um, my name is Robert Owens. I go by Robbie. Born and raised in Oxnard, California. From there, I joined the military when I was 17, and
Was that through the split option? Were you in
yeah,
high
actually,
school?
yeah, I was.
That's what I did. I joined the Army Guard split option in high school.
What was your MLS?
13 Bravo,
Okay, gun bunny.
artillery.
Yep, I got a story for you.
Oh, go for it.
Um, Well, now I was a gunner at Yuma Proving Grounds after I became EOD. So I tested weapons out there at YPG. But basic training, all of that. I joined right before September 11th, 2001. So while we are in basic training, we got all the updates of what the troops were doing in Afghanistan. So,
Yeah. Yeah, that's
um,
crazy.
yeah, it's and that started the process. Like I never had like a serious career besides the military, and because I was in the guard at the during the global war on terror, it was like I would come home for just long enough to train up for another deployment,
Yeah.
and so I was getting deployed every couple of years, so I could never have like a real adult career.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, when I
so
was in Afghanistan, a lot of the units rotating through there were National Guard units, and those guys may have well have just been active duty because they would deploy. It was more than a year. I can't remember if it was 15 or 16 months straight, but they would have 15 or 16-month deployments. They'd rotate back home, but they only had a year back home. But when they got back home, they had to do a big reset from the deployment, which took weeks, up to a month. And then they'd have 6 weeks of bit training somewhere, and then they'd have 3 weeks of some other training somewhere. Then they go to Fort Benning for a while, and they would, for the year they were home, they would only be home for probably less than half, or at most just about half of that year before deploying again.
yeah, I don't know what years were you there. At the beginning of the war, it was like that 15-month deployments, but towards the end, like you were 9 months boots on ground with like a 3 to 4 month train up.
Oh wow, okay. Yeah, so I was my years in Afghanistan was '07 through 2010, and it was the crew, it was the 173rd Airborne was who I was supporting in Afghanistan at Jalalabad when I got there in '07, and their deployment was a 15-month deployment. And then the next unit after them was when they switched down to 1 year deployments, but I wasn't there when they were doing 9 months.
Yeah, J bad. Yeah, I was
Yeah.
over in RC East.
Oh,
Uh,
okay. I never went
yeah,
there.
Ghazni, Sharana,
Yeah.
in between. Yeah,
I know
I
y'all
spent.
did have some of my drones over there in Ghazni because I had to send over whether it was buckets of oil because they ran out of oil. They had a lot of supply issues, so I was
Man,
kind of the hub for quite a while, sending them all of my spare stuff.
I loved Ghazni. I
Yeah,
loved Ghazni. Um, that's where I got my combat action badge. Like my first week in country, it was
nice.
hilarious. It
Yeah,
was hilarious. My first night in country, they they show us where our barracks are at Fob Ghazni, and middle of the night, and the Polish had their, I think it was like 106 millimeter howitzers or 165 millimeter howitzers. Apparently, they were just on the other side of the berm from me,
yeah,
and
I've
they were
heard
going off.
about that.
Yeah, they were going off in the middle of the night,
Yeah,
and I was like, in my mind, I was like, this base is under attack right now. I'm gonna have
Yeah.
to shoot.
Yeah, well, it was pretty small, right? I never did go there, but it was pretty small fob, wasn't it?
Yeah, yeah, it was very small. So maybe a mile and a half perimeter. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's pretty
that's
small.
crazy. So what
Um,
else went on, timeline wise?
oh, right. So joined the military. I moved to Arizona, Phoenix, Arizona, back in 2004 for a girl, and
So it
bought
always
a
is for a girl.
2004 was a good year in Phoenix. The housing prices were low. I bought a house in Phoenix, 7th Street and Southern, and 130K. I was 20 years old, bought my first house, and the relationship lasted maybe 2 years. I worked at the Arizona Department of Juvenile Corrections, Black Canyon School for Girls, and so female prisoners, juveniles. You can only imagine. It was like
Dude.
that. Usually the juveniles stay in like county jail, and so the worst of the worst went to the state side. So we got some wild ones, and I was on the security team. So whenever they acted out, you'd go down there and you'd have to like put them in restraints or put them in isolation, stuff like that.
That
And I
job
was like,
ain't for me.
yeah, girls hold grudges for a long time.
Yeah.
Um, so that relationship broke up, and I was like, I need to get out of this state. And I was still in the National Guard. I was a combat engineer at the time, but there was an EOD unit, and I had no idea what that was. But there was an EOD unit in Casa Grande, Arizona, and I just called them up, and I was like, "Yeah, I'd like to test out because you have to do a separate test for it." And I went there, I did the test. They're like, "How soon do you want to go?" I was like, "Right now." And because of the timing, 2004, height of the war, they're trying to get as many EOD technicians as they can.
Yeah.
They're like 2 weeks later, I was in school, in a year long school. And I just took to it. Like it just fit me to a T.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. Just cause, I don't know, people like us, we like the technical aspects of things, like anything that has some intricacy, some things that you can get better and better at. I don't know. I just pick up things like the guns, the ordnance, how
Yeah.
things work, stuff like that.
I feel like anything new and novel is also a bonus.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's so much ordnance out there. There's so much about explosives that you never can learn all of it.
Yeah.
Here, where I'm at in Huntsville, Alabama now, it's huge defense industry, huge aerospace, huge government. All the major players of aerospace industry are here. So there's tons of explosives jobs here. So you have the FBI is here now. So they moved their people from wherever it was in Virginia. They moved a bunch of their. They have a huge campus on Redstone Arsenal now. Um, you got the what is it called? Explosive TDAC, terrorist explosives. Anyways, you got a bunch of organizations that just deal with explosives here on the Redstone Arsenal.
Yeah.
Let's go back to Arizona. So after Arizona, I went to EOD school for a year, came back from that, and then hopped on a deployment to this was my very first deployment, and it was just to Kuwait. We did go into the southern part of Iraq just a little bit, but mainly it was just a Kuwait mission, and I got to learn what it's like to live in the desert. We used to blow up like 500,000 pounds every Friday of code H demolition or different types of explosives.
Okay,
And
like disposal?
right, disposal.
Oh,
So
right on. Because I was wondering why you were in Kuwait, like what exactly you would have been doing there, but I guess that makes sense that you would. One of the jobs would probably be just taking a lot of stuff that can't be used in Iraq and getting rid of it.
yeah, everything that got blown up, broken in Iraq or Afghanistan flowed through uh, Kuwait. So one of my jobs was I had to inspect the burnt out, blown up vehicles for ammunition and explosives. And one of my stories is like first of all, you see these vehicles that Americans have been blown up in. Somebody died in them. You
Yeah.
see their blood in there, and sometimes you might see a fragment of whatever, finger or skin or brain or whatever. And that was my introduction, as a young 20-year old. And I was like, man, this sucks. People really died in here. And I felt like this is not really a deployment. I'm in Kuwait. It's fantastic in Kuwait. But it was a nice introduction to war. And then later on, when I went to Afghanistan and I got to get in the firefights and be in the front and everything like that, if I was exposed to that first, it would have changed my career. I probably wouldn't want to have been in the military after that, because it was bad.
Yeah,
It was
no,
bad dealing with IEDs and driving around roads and trying to avoid getting blown up and stuff. Just driving around to get blown up.
yeah. My 3 years in Afghanistan definitely. I don't want to say it made me anti-war. I think war has its place, if and when necessary, but I don't view it the same way anymore. It doesn't excite me anymore. You know what I mean?
100%. Yeah, I'm the same way. I'm over it. It's like, I think we've done our time,
Yeah,
served our country, and it's a young man's game.
yeah.
Um, they definitely. I mean, we definitely need an army, but at a certain point, when you get enough deployments and stuff, you just get jaded. You're like, man. And then they do stuff like give back Afghanistan or whatever,
Dude,
give back to the Taliban,
I
and it
can't
just
tell you
upsets.
how pissed I still am about that entire thing. Just the
Yeah,
entire thing.
it's upsetting.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was a lot of dudes that had had a bad day when they gave up Afghanistan, because you lose so many friends over there, and then the people are just like, oh, give it back, we're done there.
No, it blows my mind. It just absolutely blows my mind. I don't have words for it still. There's nothing to say about it other than just like, how could you do that? Just literally,
Yeah,
how could you do that? What was the point of any of it? What was the point of everybody, not just the people who died over there? It's not even, dying is clearly a bad thing, but it's also all the guys whose lives just fell apart because they spent 15 years just rotating in and out of Afghanistan. They didn't watch their kids grow up. They didn't get to develop the kind of relationship they would have wanted to develop with their wife. They got any number of mental issues just from the stuff that they saw and experienced. All that suffering and all of that damage, and it's just literally for nothing at all in the end.
yeah, it's my dream was always going special forces. I actually did go to special forces assessment and selection in 2016. I was a beast back then. Don't mind this dad bod now, but it
You were
was like,
something else back then, huh?
I was back. I could have thrown a football over them hills over there. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Uh, but it's funny. It's funny. I ended up in a special forces unit anyway as a enabler for them. Um, EOD. So basically, SF's doing their job, and then they need explosive backup. Or whatever. We find a clandestine lab, an HME, homemade explosives laboratory, um, et cetera, et cetera. Now as an E7, I'm mainly training people, and it's like you can only blow up so much stuff. I mean, you know how people love fireworks.
Yeah.
It's like they just get all excited about fireworks. I'm like, I just don't get
No,
excited
thank you.
anymore.
Yeah.
Let's go back. So EOD school. What job did I have? Oh, so I started doing what's called unexploded ordnance remediation. So I traveled all over the country, um, and would go to active military installations or formerly used defense sites, and we dig up old bombs and bullets from like World War II. Just anything that the government has ever dropped
Yeah.
or used in training or whatever, or in war. They are responsible for that ammunition, ordnance, explosive, whatever. And so they'd hire contractors, and they'd pay them good money to travel around and go pick up these bombs and bullets. So we're called migrant bullet pickers.
Okay.
And I'm 20 something. I'm making six figures, just single, no dependents, just doing all the bad things.
States, right?
What's that now? Stateside, yeah,
Yeah.
stateside.
That's
You
nice.
You can definitely go overseas with it. I did that for 12 years. And it was great money. It was a great time. You become like a functioning alcoholic because you stay in hotels all the time. You're separated from
Yeah,
your
and you're
family.
making way too much money, and you're on the road.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you're
probably
just
with
doing
a bunch of other younger single dudes all around you too.
exactly. And you're all crazy because you all deal with explosives. So
You gotta be.
you, you got these EOD, EOD guys are kind of unhinged in the first place. And then you put them all together
Yeah.
and everybody's enabling each other. And it's just like, let's get crazy.
Yeah. This is I'm sure nothing compared to half of your stories, but one of the things that I can kind of relate to there is when I was at JBAD, we got mortared basically every day. Just it was like just a normal thing to get mortared. Most of the time they couldn't aim at all, so they were nowhere near anything important. But what I learned was just over time, the first time you get mortared, the first time you're in country and you get mortared, you're scared because you should be, because you've never been mortared before and people are dropping explosives from the sky and you think, oh my God, I got to get to the shelter. And then what I figured out eventually, I don't know if they did this at Ghazni, but anytime we got mortared, it was three mortars. It wasn't four, it wasn't two, it wasn't six. It was always three. It was just the random middle of the night mortars. So by the time the first one lands and you hear it, or you hear the siren, you already know at that point there's only two more coming, and they're going to come in quick succession. And there's not really any time to even get to the bunker, anyways. But if you
And do
do
you
get
really
to the
want to
bunker,
expose yourself?
if yeah,
Yeah.
exactly, and that's the thing is it doesn't really matter if you're in a tent or if you're in a bee hut or if you're on your way to the bunker. None of those are going to protect you from that mortar anyways. So whatever's going to happen is going to happen. And if you make it to the bunker, then once you're in the bunker, you can't leave the bunker until it's all clear. So the solution was eventually to just sleep through the mortars because there's only going to be three. You're not going to make it to the bunker anyways. And the last thing you want to do is just sit inside that bunker for another 18 minutes when you'd rather be sleeping, just waiting for somebody to give everybody permission to leave the bunker.
Yeah, it was silly. Like you know, as EOD, we had our own hooches, and I never went to. I was just be like, whatever. Uh, I just never went to the bunkers or anything like that. I was like, if it's my time, it's my time.
Yeah,
Because you see it all the time. We would because we have to do the post blast investigation, and you would see somebody get it right directly into their hooch, and it's like, man, it's to your time to go.
yeah,
You'd see people running to the bunkers and they'd get blown up. And it's like, it doesn't matter. It's like, it's going to hit you. It's going to hit you.
yeah. You just
So
learn to kind of let it go.
yeah, you gotta do something about that fear. You got to do something. So obviously my sense of humor is, way, way dark.
Yeah,
So
yeah. Yeah. Not to interrupt too much, and also not to dissuade potential future handymen from following in our footsteps. But given the money you were making back then, I assume that money is still out there to be made. Would you say it would be good for young men to go into that career if there is somebody who's say 18 years old and trying to figure out what to do? Is that a viable career path, or is that just a way to sock some money away until you go find a career?
so for about $6,000, you can go to two places. There's a UXO, so type in UXO school, and it's a college course. Maybe it's a month or two. It costs $6,000, um, and you can get your UXO Technician One certification, and then you need to find a job with a UXO company, and you'll start off at like 27, $30 an hour. But what makes you so much money is you get per diem wherever
Yeah.
you go. So depending on where you're at, you're talking about $800 to $1,500 a week, just non-tax per diem.
So that's
So
still a viable path to take if anybody's interested in taking it.
absolutely,
I love all the
absolutely.
ways to chase the American dream. There's no shortage. If somebody wants a good life in America, if they truly want that and they're willing to just figure out what the steps are and take them, there's so many ways to get to that point.
Oh yeah, absolutely. There's just so many people that don't know what they don't know,
Yeah.
and maybe they're not looking either. Just like I was talking to you about people not getting their VA benefits, soldiers that have served overseas and, way worse off than I am. And they didn't know how to talk to the doctors. They didn't know how to explain their symptoms or what they're going through, or they didn't want to talk about the worst parts of their life. So the VA is not, they can't read your mind.
Yeah.
So something that I like to do is every veteran I meet, I ask them like, are you getting paid? Are you getting those VA benefits? And I kind of guide them down the path. Like I have a guy that works for the Disabled American Veterans, and I basically guide him to him because he helped me out. It was as simple as calling him. He did the paperwork. All I had to show him was my DD 214s, and then I just listed down every complaint I had. And I was worried since I was National Guard. I didn't have a bunch of LODs. I just had a bunch of stuff that was wrong with me and stuff.
Yeah.
So in the end, I didn't have to really have documentation for all of my everything that was broken on me. Um, I just had to make sure that they were in there. And of course, the VA, so I put down like, 12 things or whatever. The VA comes back and gives me like 3 or 4 of them. And then, you kind of challenge it and then they give you some more and stuff like that. So it's a process.
Yeah.
But, any veteran that served overseas should be getting paid. And I see so many veterans that are struggling, especially with money and problems, addiction, um, just all the PTSD that's undiagnosed that they don't want to admit that they have problems and stuff. And
Yeah.
so I've dealt with a lot of people that, I had problems myself with alcohol and stuff, especially when I first got back. And so I try to look out for my brothers that are in the same boat.
Hey, for anybody, because we have a lot of veterans that watch this. For anyone who's in that position where they maybe should go see somebody, either for mental health or also just for the disability and getting the reimbursements, do you want to repeat or tell everybody exactly like where to go and what to do to either get reimbursement and or to get help if they have mental issues?
Yeah, absolutely. So uh, the one that worked for me was Disabled American Veterans. You can Google DAV and
DAV.
DAV, and they will help you out. They'll walk you through the process. There's so many veterans that they're so messed up that they can't even fill out the paperwork, and these guys will help you out. They'll do the paperwork, they'll make the process easy, and then it's on you to understand the VA system and keeping a journal of your symptoms, keep knowing what they're looking for at each of the medical appointments that you have. Like, okay, this doctor is going to see you for psych. What are they looking for? Because each doctor that you see has this checklist, and you just gotta know what's on the checklist, and then you yourself, you have access to the checklist just by typing it online, and you can be like, okay, I have nightmares. Boom, I'm in this category. And then, you just gotta, tell them these are, I have these nightmares twice a week, 3 times a week, twice a month, whatever. And it gives you different levels of um, percentages that you can rate on these different things. But sometimes if you can't explain it clearly, if you don't say the right keywords, uh, they're gonna lower your percentage down.
Yeah,
And
and your
it's like,
goal's not going to be to go in there and try to be Mr. Tough Guy. Your goal's going
exactly
to be to go in there and actually be honest about how your time in the service affected you physically and mentally.
right. And it has to be, the way that I thought about it is like, how am I on the worst day of my life? How was I when I was in the darkest moments of depression? How was I at the darkest times of addiction, or uh, when my back hurt so bad or whatever? And it takes a long time to come up with that list of things that really affect you, because people will have a flashback, but they won't write it down. They'll just have a flashback, and then because they don't have a journal, they won't remember it when the time comes to speak to the doctor.
Yeah.
So I think it's important to start keeping a journal of, had a nightmare, I got nervous in public, I got anxious because there was too many people there. I mean, there's just a bunch of different things, and I'd love to help anybody out that needs help, being guided through the process. And there's so much information on YouTube too, how you just got to type in what's broken on you, and then say VA disability rating, and they tell you exactly like what the doctor's going to look for and what you can expect, and
Okay.
some of the symptoms you'll experience.
Yeah.
Where were we? Yeah, so DAV. I just wanted to put them out there and make sure people are. If you're a veteran, make sure you're getting help and make sure you're getting paid. There's a big difference money wise between 30% and 100%.
Yeah. Definitely.
And I mean, it's a life changer. It is a life changer. I got 100% in February, so I have a full time job. I got the 100% disability, and then, I don't know. It just gave me the confidence to kind of start my handyman business because I was like, okay, I'm comfortable. A lot of people aren't going to be coming from a I'm comfortable aspect. They're like
Yeah.
coming from I need to hustle so I can make some real
Most
money
of the
and stuff.
time, the case is I need to hustle.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thanks for
That's,
giving us all that info then, because I'm sure there's going to be at least a handful of people over time that probably get some help out of that on this video.
Man, you got me thinking about Afghanistan again.
It's is it weird? I
Yeah,
don't
it's
know
weird.
about you. For me, I feel bad sometimes because I miss it. I feel bad because I look back on so much of it, like just with this positive mindset of like, I wish I could go back and do this. I wish I miss this and I miss that. I miss the simplicity of it. I miss the camaraderie over there. Like everybody kind of is on the same focus. They all have the same goal. They're all working towards the same thing. And I miss it sometimes. And then I'm like, you're not supposed to miss a war zone.
I don't- It's like, you'll never be as cool as that guy was.
Yeah.
You go on my website and you see me on the bottom, in Afghanistan, taking cool guy photos and stuff. And yeah, when I first got there, it's just like exciting. It's like, oh, firefights are fun. It's like we would get in firefights or troops in contact, a tick. And it was like you had all of the assets that you wanted. Like you had all the toys, and the enemy was just like you would love it when people shot at you because you could just engage. It was like it was just so much fun. As long as nobody got blown up, but like some dudes would get shot and you'd laugh at them. You're like, oh, you got hit, or whatever. But you see and do a lot of crazy things over there, and it's just wild.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, but every young boy, not every young boy, but maybe not today's generation.
Yeah.
Today's generation,
Big difference.
big difference. I mean, okay, so I'm 40 years old. You're a little bit older than me.
43.
Okay, so
About the
in
same
our
age, really.
generation, we grew up. I grew up kind of idolizing my brother that was airborne in the army and stuff. He spent a lot of time in Panama. Didn't go to the first Desert Storm, but he was in the army at that time. Um, so I spent a lot of time idolizing him, and I wanted to be in the military and like prove myself, and so that's why I wanted to be special forces and all this other good stuff. And I don't know, I just love the military aspect of it. But as the years and deployments went by, it was like you know I started I started being less and less enthusiastic about it, I guess you could say, because you're like, what's the point?
Yeah. Yeah,
So,
the older and wiser you get, um, and especially having kids. I don't know if you have kids, but
oh yeah,
the
I got
older and
one.
wiser you get, and then adding kids to that mix just kind of changes the way you look at all of it. You can still remember it fondly, but I'm sure if we could go back to being, 20 years old, 22, 23, 24 years old, and be deployed, we probably wouldn't be viewing everything around us the way that we would these days.
Yeah, in your 20s you're invincible. You don't think about death, it's so far away. And I was right after high school, I went to college for a little bit and became an EMT, and rode on the ambulance for a while. And I loved it. I love blood and guts. I love trauma. And then you go to combat and you see enough blood and guts and stuff. And now I'm just like, no, don't like that stuff anymore.
Yeah,
I don't like seeing people on their worst day.
yeah,
Essentially, and that's what, as an EMT when I was younger, it was cool. But then now as an adult, you're just like constantly seeing people on their worst days. Going into homes where they're just broken, or drug overdose or whatever. You just see a mess the mess that some people's lives become.
Yeah, if I could go back, I think I'd be over there just going, okay, clock's ticking. What are we doing to get out of here? What are we doing to wrap this up, finish the show, get everybody back home?
Yeah, and
I'll tell you this, I was scared to death my first flight into Afghanistan. Like having being a young man who had never deployed anywhere for any reason. That first flight into Afghanistan, because I was a civilian, I was a field service engineer, so I
were you
was
on a
no
C one
longer
thirty
in the military. So no, we were on a
commercial?
actually, yeah, no, that's right, because we were flying into Bagram. Flying
Okay,
into Bagram, it would have been a C-130 or C-17. I don't remember which. It
right.
happened to have been that flight because I did so much flying back then, in and out once I got there. But I just remember that first flight into Bagram and just feeling like, just knowing that we were in Afghanistan. It was probably 3 a.m., when we were up in the air crossing the border, and just that feeling of like I'm in a war zone now, and all of a sudden my brain was like, what are you doing, what are you doing, what are you doing, you're gonna die, what are you doing, this is stupid, no amount of money is worth dying. And I had my mind made up. Like I was decided, when we land, I'm gonna get right back into that MCT and sign up for a flight out of here and apologize to my job and just say sorry, I
Oh,
can't do it. And luckily I
yeah,
didn't, I didn't do that. I went and got my tent and got my cot and met my soldiers and, settled in. And, I played around with photography while I was over there. JBAD had a little stream running through it. It was
yeah,
artificial, but the groundwater was like 12 feet down. You could just put an artesian well in if you
yeah.
wanted. And they had dug this ditch down to the groundwater level. And there was a spring and there was eels in there. There was carp in there. I made a fishing hook out of a nail and took some 550 cord and pulled one of the center strands out and actually went fishing and caught some carp. Like I settled in. I
Survival
settled
style.
in and I made the best out of it. But I've never been more scared in my life than that first flight into Afghanistan. I don't mind admitting it. I was absolutely scared to death.
So when I went to Afghanistan, I was with in an airplane with a bunch of nervous people, and it's just dead quiet. I mean, the airplane was loud, but it's like everybody's just looking at each other like we're landing in Afghanistan. We were in a C-130 and stuff, and I was just looking at people and I was just laughing, and I just started. Had my phone and my Bluetooth speaker, and I just started bumping some music and just party rocking out in the plane and stuff, and just cheering everybody up. When you land, you don't know what to expect. Are we going to be under fire and blah blah blah? Like, is this a small base? Is it a big base? You have no idea. So when we landed, it was like they picked us up in pickup trucks and buses, and it was like no big deal and
Yeah.
stuff. But you could see the fear on everybody's face. But it I was the of my unit. I was like one of the only ones that got forward deployed. I got to be able to fly, hop on a helicopter and fly wherever I wanted by myself.
Nice.
Um, I was supporting route clearance patrols, and I my job was basically to like ensure that the TTPs, or the tactics, techniques, and procedures that were happening in one AO got shared with the other AOs that we were in the other engineer battalions, so that they would understand like you could be facing these kind of IEDs soon, stuff like that, and
Yeah.
then train them on detection and stuff like that. So yeah, I got forward deployed. I got to go out on missions with these guys all the time. A lot of my unit didn't get to go anywhere,
Yeah.
so I was pretty fortunate for that. So I got to say that I had my time, got my firefights, and had my fun and stuff. And at the end of it, the last 3 weeks, man, I was buckling my seatbelt so tight. Like I've seen so many
Yeah.
vehicles blowing up and stuff. It was just like, man, I'm going home now, and I got a son, and so my son Dylan was born while I was in Afghanistan, and so. I got to see him on video chat or whatever, and I already had a daughter. She was like almost one at this time, or maybe one, and then had the son while I was away. Yeah, for some reason I thought that birth control, like after, or no, that after women have a baby, like they can't get pregnant for a couple months.
Oh
That's
yeah.
not true.
Nope.
That's
Nope.
not true.
Nope.
They get pregnant pretty quick.
Yep.
So I had my son like really close
Yeah.
after my daughter.
That's probably a blessing in the long run, I guess.
Yeah, get
Give
those
them
car
back to
seats out of
back.
the car. Yeah. Uh, I worked with one guy. He had a 20-year. He had a son. Waited 20 years, and then they had a daughter. And I was
Oh
like,
my
how did that happen?
goodness. Nope. Not this
Yeah.
guy.
So how many kids you got?
I have four total. I have my one son, Aaron, is grown. I always feel horrible. I can't ever remember his age. Like, when you're an adult, I just group you into little groups. He's 28, 29, 30. He's approaching 30. I always just say you're 30 years old, but he might still be 29. Um, and he's not biologically mine, but he's effectively mine. Like, there's no difference in my mind between whether he's biological or not. That's my boy. He's the one that's helping me run the business.
Right on.
And
Yeah.
then I've got an 8-year-old Silas. I met him when he was 2, when I got with his mom, and he's absolutely my son as well. Even if not by blood, we're like two peas in a pod. He's great. He likes the cowboy hats, and he always, he's always just wanting to just do man stuff, which is what he calls it. He just says, "Let's do man stuff." And then I've got my identical twins, Beauregard and Austin. They're a little over 3 years old right now.
Beauregard.
Yeah. And we're gonna
Yeah.
have more. At least we got one more pregnancy for sure.
Well, you got a big heart. You got a lot of love.
I love kids. I love kids. I love family. When I can distinctly remember being a sophomore in high school and thinking how weird I was, because I would be, as a sophomore in high school, my fantasy in life, like my dream with me kind of goals for my future, was always me being like 76 years old with a giant, beautiful brick house out in the country on like 100 acres, and all of my kids showing up for Christmas or Thanksgiving with all of their kids. Like that was my fantasy in high school as a sophomore. And I remember just thinking, this is a weird fantasy. How come I'm the only one here whose like true goal in life is literally just that end point of having raised a good family? And that's
Wait.
pretty much always been my goal. Maybe in
Oh,
Afghanistan, I wasn't thinking about that too much, but pre Afghanistan and post Afghanistan, that's kind of always been where my mind's been at.
let me ask you this: did you grow up with a father figure?
Not a good one.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, we had to self teach ourselves.
Yeah.
So yeah, everything that we are today is what we've taught ourselves. And I've always tried to become good at things, be self sufficient, and teach myself the best ways to do whatever it is that I'm doing. Like, somebody has already paid the price. Like you, for instance, I found your YouTube channel. You've already done the work. You've already paid the price and made it easy for guys like me to move forward. To learn as much as I can. So, and it's easy for me to understand you, adapt your information to what I'm trying to do over here, and learn from a lot of different sources, and then make it your own.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
because it's people have already paid for that stuff. They've already invested so much time and effort and energy,
Yeah.
um, just to put something like that together. So it's with YouTube these days. It's just so easy to learn if you can invest that time.
Yeah. No, everything's out there. Almost all of it's on YouTube, and some of it that's not on YouTube, it's still out there.
Yeah,
I think it's literally just anything in the world that I mean, yeah, you got to be realistic. No, if I decide I want to be president of the United States, that's not going to happen, right? There are some goals that I can't achieve. But I really
right.
sincerely believe, like from the bottom of my heart, and my mom taught me this growing up. She was one of those moms that always reminded me, you can be anything you want to be, you can do anything you want to do. If you put your mind to it and you care enough and you try hard enough, the world is your oyster. And she beat that into me so well that I've just never forgotten it. And I've found it to be true. I say on this channel often that I've never met anybody who set like an achievable goal that a normal person can achieve, not being president of the United States, but that set a big goal for themselves. I've never met anybody who did that, figured out what the steps were, like took the time to do the research, and took all the steps and gave everything they had to it and didn't achieve it. I've never seen it happen. Every time I've ever seen somebody put all of themselves into a goal, they've always
Right.
achieved it. And all the people who didn't achieve their goal, not only did they not put all of themselves into it, but if you talk to them about what they did or didn't do, like how far, if you tried, how far did you get? And you find out they didn't even hardly step into it at all. Like, I couldn't go
Right.
to college because it's too expensive, and I have to do this and I have to do that. And then you say, "Oh, that's you couldn't get any scholarships?" No, no, I applied for like 7 scholarships, and you're sitting there like, there's probably a couple thousand of them you could have applied for. At some point, you drew the line and you
There's always a
decided
way.
your goal was not worth pursuing, but it wasn't that it was unachievable. It's that you picked a stopping point and decided that you didn't want it bad enough to keep pushing towards
So I have a theory that, most people let fear guide their life.
it. I
You know,
believe
they
that.
focus on their fear, and they let it control them.
Yeah.
And I decided at some point in my teenage years or after high school that I was going to stop being scared of everything,
Yep.
and I was not going to let fear influence my decisions. So I was a rebel. I was like, I wanted to do everything that you shouldn't do, couldn't do. I wanted to find out why I couldn't do whatever it was.
Yeah.
And yeah, I stopped letting fear choose my life path and just went against it. So I was kind of like the crazy dude that would jump off a bridge or, be the first one to go bungee jumping, skydiving, whatever. It's like, yeah, let's do it.
Yeah.
Somebody would say something crazy to do and I'd do it. And it's just like, just to prove to myself that, I could face that fear. Like I'm scared to death of sharks, right? So I decided when I was doing UXO work in San Diego that I was going to do open water triathlons. And now you swim out in the middle of the ocean in San Diego and a mile out and a mile back, and you see a lot of things swimming underneath you, and it scared me to death. But I faced that fear. I'm still scared of sharks, but at least I knew I was like, well, I can do it if I have to.
Yeah. Oh, I envy that. I do a lot of things I'm scared of, and when I was younger, being scared of something was a guarantee that I was gonna make myself do it. But I do have to say, these days, I don't go chasing after too many. In fact, I look back on most of what I used to do. Like, I used to go caving. Me and one of my best friends here, John
Spelunking.
Hadwin, we used to go caving all the time. Well, if you're a caver, you don't call it spelunking. That's for the nerds. Only the nerds call it spelunking. If you're a hardcore caver, you only call it caving. But we would go caving, I mean, every weekend. I had an alarm going off on my phone. I didn't know where that music was coming from. So, yeah, me and my buddy John used to go caving, and caving is super dangerous if you don't know what you're doing. And the worst of it is when I look back, it's very clear to me that our goal most times was to put ourselves in a dangerous situation. And I used to get withdrawals. So we'd go caving every weekend for almost a whole. In fact, it was that got cut off because I went to Afghanistan. That's why it stopped, was because I deployed out to Afghanistan. But I realized in hindsight, our goal was to get scared. It was that adrenaline rush of getting into such a tight place that you're scared that you might actually be stuck now, or to go deeper and deeper and deeper, and you're making lefts and rights. There's a hole in the ceiling, you go up, there's a hole in the
Uh,
floor, you go down, and you get 6 or 7 cuts into a cave, and you know your way back. You're like, left, right, down, up, and then you're out. But you get 20 or 30 or 40 turns and cuts and jumps into a cave, and you start going, I don't really know if I remember my way out right now. Like, we're getting to that borderline where we should probably not go much further. And then the thing to do was to go a little further for some reason. And we would do that so often that I noticed on like Tuesdays, I was depressed. I mean, like, I didn't want to do my job. I didn't want to wake up. I didn't want to pet my dog. I didn't
you
enjoy
wanted
the
that
food
rush
I
again.
ate because I was literally going through withdrawals from the fix that I would give myself over the weekend, 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 times every weekend. And then I'd go through withdrawals early in the next week. And then by Friday, we're just raring to go trying to get out to the next dangerous place. But now I
Yeah.
look back on that and I go, man, I got kids, I got a family, even just extended family and best friends and communities, or even just handymen. To some extent, some of them out there are relying on me to be here for them so they can email me and I can help them answer some questions. Like, I've just got people who depend on me, so I'm not
Yeah.
so risky as I once was.
Unless there's a mission, I'm not going in a cave. Like I learned, like you see a forest or some overgrowth and stuff, and I used to work in that stuff. I'd walk right through it, ticks and everything, snakes, whatever, because I had a job to do. I had a mission. But if you asked me to walk through the woods for no reason, I'd be like, no, I'm not going in there.
Yeah,
Just like go in this swamp or whatever. If there's a mission on the other side I have to do, sure.
yeah.
Or like something about handyman is like sometimes you got to go into crawl spaces and stuff like
Hmm.
that, and it's like I have a mission to do. The homeowner would be scared to death to go in the crawl space, and you're just like, nope, going under, got to get
Yeah,
to work.
somebody's got to do it, and I'm the guy.
Yep, that's right. And I a lot of people, they let that fear control them, and then they can't do it. It's like you got a job to do, and it's like send me, I'm ready.
Yeah,
So I always like that feeling, like doing what other people are unwilling to do.
yeah. And it's oftentimes easy to do it. I think there's a skill of just shutting down, like the part of your brain that's telling you not to. I feel like you can learn how to shut it off and just say, "Hey, you got to go away for a minute, and then I'm going to do what I need to do, and then you can come back." And we could be scared after the fact, but
Right.
sometimes you just don't have time when something needs to be done. Not everybody can be the guy who's just frozen in fear. So somebody has to just go, "Okay, I'm going to do it."
Yeah. And like, if an emergency situation happens and they've done studies on it where like somebody just lays down on the ground on the middle of the street, and it's like everybody just walks past the guy
Yep.
until one person reacts and helps the guy, then everybody wants to help the guy. It's like so many people are not that person that can go towards the sound of gunfire, that can go into the and see what's wrong, and I've always been one of those people that's like, what's going on, how can I help?
Yeah.
um, the rest of the people are, I hate to say it, it's like sheep,
Yeah,
they
and I
just.
think you can train yourself by just mentally envisioning yourself being the guy who does something. I think just like going through basic training, like I've never forgotten from Fort Sill, one of the drill sergeants taught us really big breaths should fill both hands. And that's response breathing, bleeding, shock, fractures, burns, head injuries. That's the order. That was the order, at least in 1998, I believe. That was the order of triage if you found somebody on a field that we
Right.
had to learn. And here I am, 43 years old, never had to use it my whole life. And I can still tell you response breathing, bleeding, shock, fractures, burns, head injuries in that order.
Did you had one of those little green books, the CTT manuals
I
that went over that?
believe, yeah, like really little, like that big.
Yeah, yeah, something like that. It was a nice thick book, but yeah, I went through the same thing. So in basic training, they were teaching the same thing, and you probably had to test out on the AT-4 rocket launcher and
Yeah.
the Claymore mine and stuff like
Yeah,
that.
that was
Yeah,
fun. No, okay, I was proud. I shot expert, with the rifles. I got expert with grenade throwing, which I was surprised that you could get expert for grenade throwing because it's kind of, as long as
yeah,
it's in the area, you should be good to go. But yeah, it was a good time. I've got a video. I think it's, I think on the shelf behind me. So, or no, it's probably in my file cabinet down here. I've even got my uh, what do they call it? It's like your yearbook, from high school,
right,
but it's a
right.
video yearbook from
From basic
basic
training.
training where there's a beautiful shot of me actually shooting a grenade launcher. It was a good time. I
Yeah,
was eight
this.
up in Army Basic too. I was the eight up one, man. I was the one that was like, "You're never gonna break me, drill sergeant."
Oh man, I had a great time. The drill sergeants were like, "Owens, you're the only one that wants to be here."
Yeah,
They were like, if you get expert on this on the M16, I'm gonna be scared of you. And I
yeah.
got expert, of course. I used to eat that stuff up.
Yeah, me too. Me and this other dude, Makayo. It was the two of us. Never got broke. All the way up to the very end. Me and Makayo just ate every single bit of it up. I remember Drill Sergeant Lester would get on the intercom at night in the barracks. It'd be like 3 a.m. and he'd be like, "Brother Duke, get your ass down here. I'm gonna break your ass tonight." And I'd go down there, and I mean, we're talking like 6 or 7 weeks in. Basic is almost done, and I'm down there at 3 a.m. holding canteens out, just shaking or getting
Yeah,
down and doing push-ups, and maybe a quarter inch from falling onto the ground. I'm just holding myself, just shaking like a madman, and him going, just give up, Duke. Just give up. And I'm like, no, drill sergeant.
Yeah, that's um, I trained for selection, and I to train for it. I actually did those go rucks. You ever heard of go ruck?
Nah.
It's and basically they take you like put on a bag and they'll take you on a couple hours of just smoking you, just smoke sessions. So like I did some 12-hour ones and stuff, and they just try to torture you, try to break you and stuff, and I enjoyed it. I was just
Yeah,
like,
no, me too. I think I knew the secret, which is you don't have to perform. It's not like there's a task to be done and you have to complete the task. The goal, they're just looking to see that you don't give up. Just
right,
don't, like I said, just being in the push up position, even if I can't push up anymore. It's just not letting go. It's just simply, it's nothing more than just don't let go and lay on the ground. As long as you're struggling, they could be telling you to do one more push up for 3 hours. As long as you keep trying to do that push up, then you
yeah,
haven't been broken. And honestly, that's how a lot of the handyman business was for me. There was some dark points trying to build this into what I was trying to build it into, where it seemed like every week I was telling my wife what the plan was and how I was going to be getting to some particular point in this business soon where things would be different. And then 3 months later, I'm telling her the same thing, and I believe it just as sincerely as I did 3 months before, but I just wasn't there yet. And this continued on for there must have been a good year that I thought I was this close to having finally worked hard enough and put enough time in to be able to step back a little bit and start getting that family time back and start getting myself back even. I poured everything I had into it, but that's all it is. I think whether it's the handyman business or whether, maybe you want to be a neurosurgeon or you want to be EOD or you want to own, a shrimp boat down in Louisiana, and it doesn't matter what it is. I think if you want something extraordinary out of life, it's going to require not that you be an extraordinary person, but that you at least have an extraordinary amount of just like drive and willpower and the willingness to just like take the punishment and put yourself through what you have to put yourself through to achieve those goals.
right. Challenges. We grow more from our challenges, and that's something that kids these days are they're avoiding. If it's difficult, they're not going to do it,
Yeah,
and it's people
it's
don't push their
scary.
limits. They don't know their limits. They're uncomfortable.
Yeah,
Like be in that uncomfortable place, hang out there and learn to enjoy it and push
yep,
the limits.
yep,
If you're not living on the edge, you're just taking up space kind of thing.
exactly. I feel the same way. Well, back to your story. We keep getting. I don't mind the tangents at all. It's quite enjoyable. But back to your story. Where were we?
Let's see. Did unexploded ordnance for a while. Uh, and like I said, it was just like I'd have these little gaps between deployments where I would try to do some kind of interesting job, and so because I like different things, and I don't know, my personality type is like I like to try everything. Like I think I'm gonna be good at whatever I try and stuff. So I try a bunch of different jobs and stuff. So UXO is the longest kind of career, if you will, that I've had. I did that for 12 years and just dragged my family along with me. And then finally, my kids got to the age like 5, where I was like, we need to settle down. They need to go to school at the same place, have friends and stuff. So my cousin owns a roofing company in Indianapolis, Indiana, and he's like, "How much would it take for you to work for me?" And I'm coming from 6 figures and stuff, and I'm like, "Well, I'm doing my cousin a favor. I don't want to break the bank or whatever."
Yeah.
So I was like, I don't know, 50K. I'm coming from making 120K, and thinking that 50K was a good amount of money, and and I learned real quick that 50K is like $25 an hour is like nothing.
Yeah, yeah. That's about what 50K is. 25 bucks an hour, 40 hours a week.
Yep. And it was just So I did that for 9 months. I worked with him and I learned a ton about commercial roofing. And then during the winter, we did remodels. So I got to learn about, just all electrical, plumbing, etc. So I
Yeah.
got that, all that experience working there. And, but that money was just horrible. So
Yeah.
I went back to the UXO field. I took a job in Adak, Alaska, working 6 11-hour days and pulling down like three or 3,000 to 3,700 a week. And I did that for a few months until we built up enough funds. So I told my wife, just go buy a house. And she's like, where do you want to buy a house? I was like, I don't know, Huntsville. We have friends there. We like it. So we bought a house in the South. And once she moved all of our stuff from Indianapolis, I quit my job in Alaska. And I was like, I came home and I thought I would work at Lowe's or something. But apparently, here in Huntsville, there's a ton of explosive jobs. So I became all up round missile technician, started building missiles for Raytheon.
Mm.
And that just, once you're in that arena, the aerospace manufacturing and such, it was easy for me to, with my UXO experience, because I had a ton of safety, like OSHA safety, 30-hour construction, 40-hour hazardous waste operations and emergency response, supervisors training, et cetera, et cetera. It all looked great on the resume. So I got a safety position on the arsenal and started doing explosive safety with my EOD background, of course.
Yeah.
So that's where I'm at now. And I've always had this affinity for tools. I love having all the tools. I love having everything I need to do a job, and I love doing do-it-yourself stuff. So I did some bathroom remodels for friends. I did some tiling work for friends. I, I can fix a bunch of stuff. Worked on vehicles, all that stuff. And I was just like, you know what? Why can't I, do a handyman business? And when I found you and you made it sound so easy, I was like, yeah, you can do this. So I just followed your steps and went for it. Once I go into something, I go all in. And this
Yeah.
is like one of those things I'm not getting tired of. Like it just seems like working on your own business is so much
Yeah.
more interesting.
From what I can gather from you so far, it sounds like this is really going to suit you because you're going to
Oh,
be, I mean, you're going to be bored a lot. Like, you're going to do a lot of towel bars and garbage disposals. But if you're like me, then you'll just approach them in terms of, like, okay, time to time the next garbage disposal. My record's 14 minutes and 32 seconds. I wanted to get this one done in 13 minutes. And then it becomes interesting again because you can do that. But then there's also just tons of problem solving because you'll end up being the handyman that the other guys, when they can't figure something out and they kick it back, you're the guy they'll be able to call and say, "Oh yeah, okay, yeah, he's going to take care of that." And then you get to do a lot
yeah.
of problem solving.
Yeah, I'm actually in community college right now for HVAC, so I'm going to get my degree in that, and it's
Nice.
super interesting too. Like
Yeah.
I just love, being able to go in there, diagnose problems, and fix them.
Are you going to try
The
to specialize or you just want to add that to the list of services?
Just add it. I think I'll get my electrical degree,
Nice.
electrical, whatever. They have like a 2-year degree program.
Yeah.
I'll probably do that next just to be more well rounded. And with my instructor experience and stuff like that, like I feel like I can train the next person, like find motivated individuals that I can train and develop my own team.
Yeah.
So one of the things that attracts me about the handyman business is like the personal interactions that you have with people. You can solve their problems, and I enjoy that, interacting with people and making them happy,
Yeah.
fixing their problems.
So what's your business model then? I would guess you probably already know what your model's going to be.
So I started out. First, I wanted to go to the Northwestern Register. What is it called?
Oh, Northwest registered agent to get a
Yeah. So
LLC? Yeah.
I looked into that. That was super easy, but I talked to an accountant first to see. And one of these guys in town, actually went to 3 accountants just to see what kind of advice they would give me. And he actually sold me on starting the business as a sole proprietorship because you have no idea how much money you're going to pay or make. And if I do taxes next year, it's going to be more expensive as an LLC versus a sole proprietorship. And he said, if you start making a lot of income, then by March, we have to make a decision in March to become an LLC. And then he also advised me not to make any big purchases this year because it's, closer towards the end of the year, and save them for next year when you incorporate.
Yeah.
So I decided, yeah, I'll just do that, feel it out, see what kind of business I can get organically before I advertise or do anything like that.
Yeah.
And that's basically how it started, was just talking to the accountant. And then it was like the next thing I did was try to come up with a business name, and that was more difficult than it sounds, because you want to be like, there's so many of these, I don't know, fancy names out there, quirky names like Mr. Fix It and this and that and whatever. And so I went to like the online name generators to see what I like, veteran owned business, type in there different search features, but nothing really I accepted or adopted. Because I'm Christian, I'm a veteran, um, I'm trying to, I'm a father. I was trying to incorporate all that into some kind of business name, and then essentially, like, I just got like, no, don't need any gimmicks, just plain and simple. I'm not fancy, so
Yeah.
Robert Owens Handyman. That's it, man.
Yep. My this business that I have right now, I did change the name when I filed for an LLC, but when I first started, before I had an LLC at all, my business name at first was Ray Duke Handyman. That was
That's
it.
it.
It was just my first name, my last name, and the word handyman. I'm like, there you go. That describes what this business is.
That's me. That's exactly what I'm doing.
And you'll
So
do fine because as long as you just go, just kick ass on the jobs that you do, then that's all you really need. They don't care what the business name is as long as you're out there doing a good job.
yeah, I mean, word of mouth is powerful, and I'm sure once my name gets out, it's like, it's just going to be, more work than I can handle. So
Yeah.
I really like the small jobs, like, hey, install a washing machine, easy.
Mhm.
Where were we? Where were we? So,
I had asked you about your business model in general.
oh, right, right. I can go over like the steps so far that I've taken, kind of after deciding on the business name. I used Fiverr to develop a logo, so I got a professional logo made, and that was a good, easy process. With a lot of, I gave him a lot of feedback. He did everything that I wanted and gave me a great looking logo with all of the different types um, of files, so that you can upload them to like YouTube, Facebook,
Yeah.
Twitter, etc.
Yeah.
Because
I
you
saw
want
your
your,
logo on your website too. It's really nice.
yeah, you could put my website out there. It's fine. Uh,
Oh, yeah.
RobertOwensHandyman.com.
It was just robertowens.com. Oh,
RobertOwensHandyman.com. After I got my logo, then I went on Wix and just started playing around in Wix. And Wix was very easy to navigate. Actually, I went to all the different handymen in this area and kind of like saw what services they were offering, and then developed a list of what I was good at, or jobs that I thought I could handle,
mm,
and then made my own list, and put that on the services that I offer.
yeah.
Then I
Yeah,
got
no,
the
your
job.
website's really sweet. I like it a lot. I spent some time on it yesterday, and I was like, dude, this is. I would hire if I was looking for somebody. I'd hire this guy.
Thanks, man.
You've got. It's clean. You used fonts that are easy to read. You didn't put tons of crazy colors on, like, you didn't try to put some big yellow cursive font on top of like some busy scene. It felt very calming. It felt very professional. You have it very clear in there that you're a veteran and it's a veteran business. I noticed you had the jobber request form
Yeah.
button that you can click, as well as the assessment button and an embedded request form at the bottom. You just everything was laid out. You had those promises. Actually, talk to everybody about the promises that you have, like your commitment to your property managers that you put on
So I'm a big fan of like customer service. Like, I go to a restaurant and I judge their customer service, and or you go to some store and you judge their customer service, and I know what good customer service is, and I know what things that I look for. So I thought about, what's important to me, or what kind of feeling would I want from somebody that I'm going to hire. And a lot, there's so many horror stories out there, when you hire contractors or handymen or painters or whatever. and that everybody feels like they're trying to screw you essentially. And I was like, how can I set my, this is me up front. And that's where the promises came from, was like, these are the things that I'm going to provide, and this is what you can expect. And I think that it'll give people that warm fuzzy just right away,
Yeah.
and be like, okay, this is a real person. This is a guy that has standards. This is a professional. And, any questions that they may have, it's like, boom, I got the warranty right there. I took the touch ups, from you. I learned that one. The promises, clear communication, punctual service, comprehensive inspections. I like that because I like photos anyways, because that's how I, keep track of all the jobs and stuff like
Yeah.
that.
Here, how
Before and
about
after pictures.
can I bring it up on here? Can I bring your
Yeah,
website up on our interview here?
absolutely.
You can keep talking as well if you
Efficient completion, leave no trace policy, and then the firm fixed quotes I also got from you, and it made sense, and it lays it out there. And
There we go.
you know, just focusing on that customer service, because especially in a handyman business, it's all about that relationship.
Yeah.
They're going to recommend you to somebody else, and you want to give them that warm fuzzy and stuff. And
So yeah, your logo looks really awesome here. Your email address is just literally so clear and easy to click right off the bat. Your phone number, request a service today. You've got your promises at the top before you even talk about how much money you charge or what services you provide. It's like you start off by saying, "Here's my promises to you." Pictures are, nice, clear pictures of work you've done, obviously. The picture of you is a professional picture. You're not drinking a beer or at the lake. You're wearing like good, solid professional clothing. And then yeah, you've got a nice list of all the stuff you do. Client hub. Oh, that's what you had that I forgot about. The client hub for returning customers, which I haven't seen anybody put on their website yet. And then you've got your request form. I mean, this is great. And then just a little something for guys like me at the bottom to go, oh, yeah, that guy's a vet. I like hiring vets.
right,
Number
right,
one, vets just tend to do a better job and have be a little more disciplined and have a few extra values. But on top of that, just I'm a vet. I like hiring vets. I like to take care of my own.
yeah, absolutely. Eh, And people want to hire vets. They're just like, okay, this is a solid dude. He's not a fly by night operation kind of thing. So,
Yep.
and it's very nice with the jobber. You're just so much more professional.
Yeah. Yeah,
To
to
be
me,
able.
that's all appearance when it comes. My very first property manager was the one was super impressed, and I had just gotten Jobber. I didn't even really have an opinion on it yet. I just knew from a previous business when I had a food truck that I wished I had bought some good software and not done everything on paper and on spreadsheets and Word documents. And I sent
Right.
her that first invoice, and she was so excited just that I had professional software. Like her mind was blown because all the handymen she had dealt with were either doing like Word documents or just basic templates. Some of them were even just remember the old receipt books
Yep.
where
Yep.
you could write out a receipt. Some of them were just using a receipt book and writing it out like with a blue pen and then taking a picture of the receipt from the receipt book and emailing her that picture. That was their invoice. So right
Yeah.
off the bat, I was just like, okay, it doesn't even matter. I mean, in the long run, it turned out Jobber has been well worth it. But in my mind, I had already decided that even if I didn't feel that it served any actual purposes for me, I was going to keep it around just for my clients so that they could have that sense of I'm working with a business and not just a guy.
Yeah. I did a bunch of research. Like Alan over there at Handyman Journey talks about 𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪,
Yeah.
and you know, you promoting the jobber and actually walking us through it. I was like, that one seems like it's more intuitive. I like everything just makes sense.
Yeah. And that
Click.
was why I bought it initially was because it was intuitive. I told that somebody called me to try to pitch it to me and I said, I tell you what, I'll go home tonight, email me your link. If I open it up and I literally use the word intuitive. If I open it up and it's intuitive, if it's just clear to me what to click and how to use it, and it's easy, then I'll just go ahead and purchase it, and you don't ever have to sit down and do a demo with me. But if it's
Right.
not easy, I'm not going to purchase it because I don't have extra time in my schedule for figuring out complex software. And that was why I initially purchased it. And then that
Yeah.
first property manager was the reason I kept it.
And then your CSV file just made it super easy. So just populate that guy in there, and then make your adjustments, and
Yeah, that'll get
learn.
you a long ways as long as
Oh yeah.
nobody's using my actual pricing because that's all of my files. Just so everybody knows who's watching, all of my files are a
Right.
work in progress. They're a snapshot in time with whatever. Like, I didn't come into this to build a YouTube channel and run a handyman business secondary to it. Everything that I do for YouTube was secondary to the business, and anything that I offer from the business on the channel, it's just a snapshot of whatever I was doing at that time.
Yeah. Talking about the website, um, when I originally made it, it was just like whatever. I just wrote it out, right? And so I wanted to get that website up, and I knew that I would refine it later on. And I used Chat GPT to really just plug in what I wrote and make it sound way more professional.
Yeah.
And Chat
And it
GPT
kicks
is,
ass every time, doesn't it?
yeah, it's just awesome. It's like I didn't know I could say that.
Yep.
So Chat GPT is definitely your friend. So I did the website. Definitely, I use Vistaprint to order my business cards, magnets, and yard signs. That was a very easy process, especially once you have those professional logos. I paid $100 to a guy on Fiverr, and then, he did unlimited redos, just made it exactly what I wanted, and you got professional logos and all the files that will fit everywhere. Because some websites want it this size, some websites want it that size.
Yeah.
Sometimes it has to fit on this small thing or whatever.
Yeah,
And
you
you have
got an
all
entire branding package, which is awesome. I,
exactly
I think that's what everybody, if they're thinking of what they're starting right now as being a long term career for themselves,
right,
start with a branding package and
right.
stick with it. Doesn't mean you can't ever change it, but start with it and then actually use it. And when you do flyers, use your font, use your colors, like your specific RGB data set colors, and keep it uniform across the board. Because over time, that's how people come to know your business. The way you see a face and it makes you happy or sad, they're going to see your color, your font, your little thing put together. It's going to make them happy or sad.
Yeah. The After that, got the website up. I've been refining it like every day, kind of adding more things that I learned. The business licenses I thought were going to be a much bigger deal, and they weren't. It's just filling out the paperwork. First, I went here in Alabama. When you go to the county, it was $16 for both the county and state to get that license. And then I went to the city of Owens Crossroads, paid my money, and got that license. And then go to the city of Huntsville. So all the municipalities that you're going to be working in, you want to get that business license for them. For the city of Huntsville, there's not a specific handyman license. They just wanted you to choose three things, three jobs or tasks that you would perform that do not need a license, and those would be on your business license, like
Nice.
drywall, painting, and whatever else.
Yeah.
So that was pretty easy. Oh, and then insurance. So I went to Next. Next was expensive for me, maybe just because of what I clicked and put in, like you said. I went to Simply Business, and it was just a ton cheaper, $500 for the year. Um, and I love customer service. I could call them. I could get my certificate of insurance. Those are important when you're like working with the property managers like you do.
Yeah. Yeah, they're
Different,
typically going to ask for that.
yeah. So making sure that you have that insurance. So it was super cheap. I paid $140 up front, and then it was like $40 a month or something like that.
Nice.
So got the insurance in order. Like I said, I went sole proprietor, so didn't really worry about the LLC yet until I know how much money I'm going to be taking in. Once I'm around that 50K mark, or I'm leading up to it, that's the more important time to start that LLC. Went with Oh, open up a bank account. So when you open up a business bank account, you need to have some kind of proof that you actually own the business, like a business card or a business license or something like that. So you want that, and then immediately attach my bank account to my jobber account. That was super easy. Um,
Have you received any payments through that yet?
yeah, yeah.
Okay, cool. So you
So
already know that it takes a while for the first payment.
yeah, and you know, I'm not hurting right now, so I was like, if it takes 5 days or whatever, it's fine. Oh, and then I started learning about SEO, search engine optimization.
Yeah.
So doing a bunch of research on that. How can I make the website better? How can I be upfront? And so you learn like you got to get your name out there everywhere. So like today, started a YouTube channel. Definitely sign up for the free Yelp stuff. Yelp will try to push you. Like those first couple days, they'll call you and they'll try to push you into advertising. And it's like, you don't need it yet. Let it grow organically, I think, until you really want to advertise. Sign up for Yellow Pages. There's a whole list that you can go down, all the different boards that you can try to find in your area that you can put your name out there. Just getting your name all over the internet, and then I was just trying to get rank higher on my search results and learning about the Google business profile. So that's important. You have to get verified with them, and that was you got to create a video for your service business. And I probably submitted like 6 videos to get actually verified.
Yeah, and that
And
must be new because I'm pretty sure I did one for Bulletproof Handyman at some point, and I don't think I had to do any of that. But it feels like that was probably almost a year ago though that I did that.
but Google business profile, once you have that, it's like you've made it. And then after my first customer, the next day I sent her the link for leaving a review, and she left me a great review. So once you start adding those up, start ranking higher and higher. So there's a lot of different handyman businesses around here, but they're much bigger, and some of the reviews are really bad. So
Yeah.
I think that once a handyman business gets kind of too big and you have employees, it just you never know what you're going to get with the handyman they send you.
Yeah. I think it's just going to be exceedingly difficult to scale a handyman business. To the
Yeah, like
extent that it's difficult to scale an electrical or plumbing, or HVAC business, to then try to scale a handyman business where now you don't even you can't limit it to just one skill anymore. Now the
right,
guys you're trying to hire, maybe each guy doesn't have to know everything about everything, but you don't need so much just an electrician or just a plumber. You still need handy people all around, and it's such a rare skill to find. And then to find it in somebody who's also going to show up for work every day and be professional, and just kind of kick butt for your business. I
yeah,
believe you can do it because I know that's in your plans, is to grow in that direction. And I believe
yeah,
you can do it. But I do know my experience was that when I tried to do it a few times, I just spent too many hours out of my day angry to the point that I'm not kidding either. I don't like being angry. I'm too old to be angry. Life is too short to be spending so much of it angry. And if the only thing I get in exchange for losing what would have been happy days and instead of turning them into angry days, if all I get out of that is a little extra money, I don't think I need that much extra money.
right. That makes sense. So, yeah, I'm picking and choosing my jobs to what's going to be easy for me and what what I want to do, what I like to do, and know that I can spend more time on a certain project without not stacking up jobs and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So, especially in the beginning, I want to be able to spend as much time as I need to make the customer perfectly happy
Yeah.
and get those good reviews.
Get that reputation going.
Right. So I'm
Especially if you don't have to make as much money as you can possibly make right out of
right.
the gate. If that's not a necessity, probably way better off building the reputation first.
Right. Building the brand, building the name, and getting your name out there.
So where are you
So,
at now? Are you part-time right now or have you gone full-time yet?
oh no, definitely part time. So my hours are 4 to 9 Monday through Friday, and then the weekends 7 to 9, and just pick up whatever jobs that I want. Yeah. So super flexible. But fortunately for me, all the jobs I've done so far have been super easy, like surprise. Like I'll talk to my coworkers about it. Like, yeah, I just did this job, made 125 bucks, and it's like people pay you for that, and I was like,
Yeah,
100%,
yeah,
100%, and it's like, um, we take it for granted because so many of us are do-it-yourselfers, but there's a majority of people out there that, they don't know how to turn a screw or whatever.
yeah.
So
It's becoming very common to just not really know a whole lot of anything.
yeah, like how many kids these days know how to change a tire and stuff,
Yeah, if dad didn't teach him, then basically none of them.
Dang it. Let me take a break real quick.
All right, no worries. All right, sir. Do you need to get going? If you do, we can always cut this off and just do another interview later if you want.
No, I'm good, man.
Okay, cool.
Like these long form discussions. See what
No,
we
me
get
too.
into.
Yeah, I prefer it because at some
Yeah.
point you start getting more and more relaxed, and then you really kind of dive into where you're just having a conversation. It's a whole different skill for me to even learn how to interview. I'm definitely not good at it yet.
Well, you've been guiding the conversation well. So, uh,
Satisfactorily.
satisfactory. Well, we're not all Joe Rogans.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wish I had a better camera angle, but this will do for now. It
Oh
was
yeah.
weird because the whole time I was trying to stare at my camera, yeah, and have you in the background. I like the background, but I'd rather just have a conversation with you. So staring at you is just like, okay, now I can have like a normal conversation.
Yeah, more natural.
Yeah, it's super cool.
So how's
So
everything looking for you right now then? Like how are you feeling about how everything's going?
uh, promising, promising. I'm excited. Developing those relationships. I'm not looking to advertise right now, but I'm also not relying it on my sole source of income. So that helps a lot.
Yeah.
It's just, I'm in a comfortable place and I can just build it organically.
Yeah. Are you still in the guard?
I am.
For
I
how
am.
long?
So I think I'm in my 23rd year since 2001.
Oh, okay. So you can kind of retire from that anytime you want then, huh?
Yeah. 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 I'm actually med boarding right now. So that to get out of the military. And then if my med board goes through, then I can, um, get that retirement from the National Guard as well. Yeah, it's all worked out. I mean, you do your time. Now I have soldiers that, weren't even born when towers fell and stuff. Is just so wild. I'm the old guy now.
You're a good person to ask this too. Then I actually asked that. It's very rare that I really don't know why. Probably just because they're able to buy. But I don't have a lot of tenants when I work on these rentals who are in the military. And when I do, I like to ask them, and I'll ask you too. How do you feel about, let's say, everybody in their first term? Like it's just the generation in general. I know how I feel about the generation society wide. But the ones who are joining the military, how are you feeling about sort of the outlook for the country with the guys that are joining these days?
The Army's been doing its job for a very long time. They're good at doing what they do, is getting people, training them to do a job that they need them to do. Um, and just like anything, you're going to have, 80% that just don't care, 10% that are extremely horrible, and 10% that are fantastic. So, in any unit you go to, there's going to be those top performers, but the Army needs all kinds. Some stick with it, some don't. But the kids that I see today that are in the military, they're definitely a step up above the common population. They're hungry. They want to prove themselves. They want to go to combat. They want to get those deployments and stuff. You see the same thing that we were once, just wanting to prove ourselves and stuff. So, hey, go get it. I love training these people. Their heart's in it and they want to do the right thing. I take advantage of the military for the benefits, the college, all that stuff, because for sure the military is going to get what they want out of you. So take advantage of it. Without the military, my life would not have been where it is today,
Yeah,
and given me any kind of stability.
yeah,
So it really changed my life.
yeah. It changes everything. And just for the record, for anybody watching, if you're thinking about going into, if you're 18 and thinking about going into the handyman business and you're thinking about going into the military, as much as I love the handyman business and I think there's a great future to be had, I would say go into the military first. You know, if you don't want to do 20 years, I 20 years isn't for me. I could not have survived because I switched over to the Air Force after a while being in the Guard, and I could not have survived a military career, a 20-year military career. And based on what I saw in Afghanistan, I couldn't have survived a 20-year army career either. It's just not, it's not my personality type. I'm not a fan of structure. I like building my own structure around me, but I'm not a fan of being within somebody else's structure. But if you're not like me, all else being equal, I would definitely advise everybody who's young enough to join, if you're on the fence, do your 4 years at least. And then if it looks like a great career that you want to stick with it. And then if not, when you get out and you go to start your handyman business or pursue any passion at all that you have in life, you're going to do way better because of your 4 years in the military.
100%. Build your confidence in yourself. There's a lot of good things that you can learn. People that are unhappy in the military, it's because they didn't know what they were getting into and just kind of listened to their recruiters. But if you do your research and you pick a technical job where you're actually learning something,
Mhm.
you can definitely get ahead and use those skills on the outside. Like I said, I went to EOD school and got out and I had a six-figure job. Like
Yep,
it was
just
super
right
easy.
away. Yeah, if you want to be a sheriff, if you want to join the sheriff's department, you can do 4 years in the military as a cop, and then just you're a shoe in, for the sheriff's department. If you want to be a firefighter, you can go into the military to learn how to be a firefighter. Any job in the world that you want, there's an equivalency of it in the military that will essentially send you to college for that job for free.
Yeah. But who wants to be a cop these days? That's
I would
my
never
brother.
want to be a cop. I couldn't. I've
My
known
brother
that
has
my whole life too, not even just these days. I don't
yeah.
like telling other people what to do.
So my brother's 25 years LAPD, and he's like, "Don't do it, Robbie. You'll hate it." Yeah, I learned out a lot later in life that my personality type doesn't like the hierarchy, doesn't like red tape. I've always been kind of a free spirit like that, and because I don't see rank. I feel like everybody's a person. We're all on equal terms and stuff. Like
Yeah.
you're just a dude, and in combat, it's like you follow the person that is the most competent. I don't care
Hmm.
what your rank is.
That's a hundred
So,
percent true.
you're doing good things. I hope that you're affecting a lot of young dudes' lives. Maybe there's some girls out there too that, girls in trades,
I,
that's
I
new.
think it would be really beneficial to get more women into a lot of the trades. I can tell you, all else being equal, if I had to hire right now, if I had no choice but to hire, and I had a bunch of equally qualified people, I would probably err on the side of hiring a woman over a man just because they're so detail oriented. Because again, the work is so easy. Anybody can swap a smoke detector. Like an 8-year-old can swap. My 8-year-old, in fact, when he was 7, changed a toilet fill valve. I told him what to do, but I didn't touch it. I gave him the tools. I verbally guided him through it. Anybody can do the work. I think the biggest skill to learn if you want a handyman business is always going to be how to be a business person, not so much how to do the actual labor. The labor can just be picked up as you go if necessary.
I think that what is important also is being a people person. Knowing how you make people feel.
Hmm.
Because they don't remember what you did for them; they remember how you made them feel.
Yeah.
you know as like if they made you give them the warm fuzzy, like this is a nice, like the first comment I got was like he was super nice, very efficient, and got the job done. So it's like just focusing on like how you made that person feel. Maybe some people don't have those skills yet, so that's like a whole nother thing that you can do. It's just like learning how to talk to people, having normal conversations, and focusing on disarming situations.
Mm. Oh, speaking of that, have you had any crazy clients yet?
No, no. I think that the price that I put on the webpage, kind and not advertising on lower budget stuff, kind of keeps that away. And around this area, I think the average income is like 140K for the homes in my area. And so it's like just a higher end clientele. So I haven't had any crazy, I just really haven't had any bad experiences as of yet. And I think I would get that feeling like right off the bat, like, oh, this is not going to work out well.
Yeah. What's up, buddy?
When you're done, can you help me connect the TV?
Which one connected to what?
The big TV.
In the living room?
Yeah.
Yeah, I can do that.
Also, did they have a banana?
Yes, they've already had a banana today, so they can't have any more.
Well, I was about to chop some up.
They'll get constipated. You can get them apple if you want, or literally any other fruit, but just not more banana.
Well, I'm gonna make myself chopped up bananas.
Okay, cool. Love you.
Love you.
This is my boy Silas.
Right on. Yeah, it's good. It's good that you tell your kids you love them. Like, I think that was like growing up without a father. We talked about it is like, it made me want to have a family. It made me want to be a better man. Made me want to learn what right looks like. What a good man is. And
I need to have you on my other channel. Please continue. I keep interrupting you.
no. So telling your children that you love them, it's like super important. That's the reason that kids turn out so bad is because like nobody told them they loved them enough.
Yep, I agree. A lot of that, as far as, well, even on the channel, just telling all of you guys that I love you at the end of every video, that doesn't come natural to me. My stepdad was the opposite of the loving type. As far as I knew, not only did he not love me, he really didn't like me, and I was mostly in his way.
I'm in the same boat. I had a stepfather that he really resented me because I was from another dude. So it was like, no love there.
And a lot of what's good about me today is specifically from watching exactly who he was, how he conducted his life, and purposefully going in the opposite direction. But it does not come natural to me. I had to teach myself as an adult once I had kids. I had to learn how to express that. Like, I had to look at them and go, I needed that when I was your age, and I didn't get it. And it hurt me that it was bad for me that I didn't get it. I suffered in a way because I didn't get that from my stepdad. And I just had to force myself to go the other direction and just go, it's going to be uncomfortable the first few times as a man expressing love towards another man. But again, if you think it's necessary, if it's the right thing to do, then you just need to do the things that are uncomfortable and that are scary if they're the thing that needs to get done.
Absolutely. I see that you have a bunch of books over there. You said you have tons of books, and
My whole house is a library.
Yeah, I have tons I buy books. Like, if I see a book that I want to read, I just buy them, and I won't read them for like a couple of years.
Yeah.
Like, I just put them on the shelf. And growing up, it was like all of it was self-help type stuff, leadership stuff, like
that's
just
cool.
just learning a ton of like just all nonfiction, like everything. I felt like I had to learn something from.
When you were younger?
Yeah, so growing up like in my 20s and stuff, like I read a ton of self-help and motivation books and all this other stuff.
And mine was all survival back then. I think I read every book ever written, nonfiction and fiction, if it was about survival, like specifically wilderness survival.
Are you a prepper?
I'm not hardcore about it, but I definitely feel like it's common sense to just look around and go, never in the history of mankind has a country gone as long as the United States has gone without falling apart. Or even just looking back to the Depression. Yeah, the country didn't end, but I mean, a lot of people died and a lot of families suffered and a lot of horrible things happened. So I try to always be prepared for things falling apart. But I don't go crazy about it. And I'll be diving into some of that on I don't know if you've heard about my Man Stuff channel. It has zero content at this point. I've made the channel and everything, but I haven't done any content. But so that I don't water down all the handyman stuff, because people come to this channel for specific, they're looking for a particular value here, and I want to give them that. and not water it down too much. But the man stuff channel is going to be where I do get to dive into, which I think I want to have you on there at this point, because we've got the military background behind us. We have similar childhoods. I think I understand a lot of where you come from, and we would probably see eye to eye on a lot of things. But you were talking about earlier, and I tried not to dive into it too much either, but just what it means to be a good man and like
Yeah.
making an active effort. That's probably the biggest part of my life, and the biggest passion I have is figuring out what a good man is and trying to be as close to that as I can be, while still failing at it constantly.
Right.
But even to me, prepping is part of being a good man. If you're going to be a good father and a good husband, it is your job to make sure that to foresee what may happen and be prepared for that.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. I got hardcore when Russia invaded Ukraine. I went full on prepper. Like I was storing up food
Yep.
and bought generators. I bought thousands of rounds of ammunition,
Yep.
guns, body armor. I went nuts. And you know, I came to the realization that I was buying food every week and stuff, and I was like, Robbie, you're never gonna feel safe. You're never gonna feel secure. I know you're not religious, but that it was at that kind of point where I was just like, at some point you got to just trust God sometimes,
Yeah.
and so that's where I became a Christian in 2022.
Oh,
Finally,
interesting.
yeah, after being the prodigal son, doing
Or
everything that I wanted to do in life, all the bad stuff, and then came back to Christ. So
wow. Okay, so that's what I was going to ask, was whether you became a Christian for the first time in 2022, or if you just were away for a while and came back in 2020.
yeah, I was officially baptized in 2022, but before that, I was just kind of spiritual. Like I can't, I didn't really understand religion and all this other stuff. Like, no, God would never do that. How are all the people in the world not going to make it and stuff like this? So,
Yeah.
and then I started digging deeper into it and found my faith.
Yeah. Well, I have to say, I'm not anti-religious by any means. I just don't believe what I don't believe. Like for me, you can't trick yourself into believing something. You know,
Right.
and I know that I could, honestly, which is the worst part, because what I will give you, I'm jealous that you sort of found your Christianity again, or for the first time, however you want to word it. Um, I miss the feeling that it used to give me. I miss, like, example of what you were saying, that security of being able to let go and say it's in God's hand. I miss that.
Yep.
I miss a whole lot about it. I just can't. I can't believe something that I don't believe.
100%. I
And
used to be envious of my religious friends because they had faith, and
it's
I just
just,
didn't understand it.
yeah. No, it felt amazing. I was super saved once, and I'm sure I wasn't the most saved person that you've ever seen in your life. There's always somebody that could probably top me. But I'll tell you what, there was a time in my life when I was the saved guy.
Right.
Every thought that fleeted through my head, somehow I tied back to God, religion, the Bible, or some story from the Bible, or some anecdote as to how we can all be better Christians. I mean, morning to night. And the blissful feeling that gave me, and the confidence that gave me, and the fear that it took away from me was just the most beautiful thing in the world.
So what shook your faith? What we're
Well,
going deep, man. You're
nothing.
gonna have to cut all this stuff out. You're gonna
Well,
have to
no,
cut.
and you know what we might be able to do, that I'd be happy to do too, is cut some of this stuff out and keep some of it reserved for that man stuff channel, because this is also, the man stuff channel is just it's for men. In other words, it's not about,
Yeah.
it is about guns, it is about camping, it is about religion, but it's about everything, as long as it's everything from the viewpoint of a man. um but what's interesting is my religion never did get shook. I literally just couldn't believe it. And it's not, I don't want to try to latch on to any. One of the things I enjoy doing, by the way, is watching debates between atheists and religious people. And I prefer to watch the debates that are between, like, the pinnacle
Oh yeah.
atheists and the pinnacle, like the ones that everyone agrees represent their side. And
Hmm.
I mean, I'll watch a 3.5 hour debate and really listen to every single point and try to It's very important to me that I believe what I believe for good reasons and not because they make me feel good.
Right.
And that's ultimately, I didn't lose my religion in a day, and I didn't lose my religion even in a year or even in a couple years. It was a very gradual process where initially I was the most saved guy you've ever met in your life. And then somewhere down the line, because I actually started reading my Bible, like
Mhm.
truly reading it, saying, you know what, if I'm going to claim to believe what I believe, I should know what the book says.
Did it get more confusing for you? Because I think it gets more
Yeah.
confusing
And
when
it
you don't
wasn't
have
so
context.
much the confusion. I'll give you one example, just as long as we're on the same page, that there was no one example and there was no
Okay.
one moment. It was a gradual evolution. But one of the very first examples was when I was in the Air Force. My wife, we were joint spouse. We married as high school sweethearts, joined the Air Force together. And when I was in the Air Force, she ended up cheating on me and leaving me for another guy. In fact, he was God, was he EOD or ammo? He was ammo, which I
Okay.
don't. It's not the same thing as
No,
EOD. He
he
was
was
an
the guys
ammo
that build
guy.
bombs and stuff.
Yeah. So, but anyways, so she leaves me, and then it's later on after I'm out of the Air Force is when I get super saved.
Mhm.
And I was reading my Bible, and I come across this part that and I can't remember the wording, but it was clear enough wording to me, made it super clear I can't get married again for the rest of my life. The words I read told
Mhm.
me if I'm just going to read them and not have to read in between the lines or anything, uh, it said I can't get married again. And I wanted a family and I wanted to be married again. And I went to a pastor, actually, a couple pastors. I
Mhm.
went to a couple different church leaders of different types and asked them about it. And they all had an answer that was the answer I wanted.
Yeah.
But when they showed me in the book how to come to that answer, it felt dishonest. It felt
Huh.
like they understood that I needed to be told I could get married again. So they picked the pieces that were necessary to make me feel better about moving forward with life and being able to get married again. And that was the first of it's like death by a thousand paper cuts. There was
Yeah.
just so many paper cuts. The more I read the Bible, the more I tried to understand it, and the more I tried to understand also science and the world around me in general, just from like a naturalist standpoint. Because one thing I did believe was God created this, all of this. So if a book or a pastor or a leader or just a person I respect who's religious, if any of those things contradict creation itself, then I have to go with I'm going to believe creation itself over what any number of people may or may not have written or said or prophesied or anything else.
Let me make 2 points
Mhm.
that we're just having a conversation. So
Yeah.
so this helped me out a lot was learning that what was written in the Old Testament, what you probably read in the Old Testament, that was specifically laws for the Jews at that time, and that when Christ died, all of those laws were settled, all of them were paid for, and so now we're in the New Testament times, and we have new, simpler laws. We don't have to follow the 300 and whatever laws that the Jews had to follow, the Jewish people. And one of the greatest arguments that I love for the existence of God is just a intelligent design. Like there's too much perfection in nature, in the human body, in the human eyeball. Like it wasn't an accident. It wasn't just like we didn't come from some primordial ooze, and there was somehow fantastically we morphed into what we are today. No, we were originally designed in this body, in this human form, and it's just everything works too perfect, just the way that the earth is perfectly in that Goldilocks zone so that it can support life. All of these things just work out to intelligent design all the way around. No matter how small you go, right? Like molecular level and stuff, there it reaches a point where it's just like, well, that's the God particle. Or no matter how far you go out in space, it's like, oh, that's good. That's the God this or God that, or that's another dimension and blah blah blah. Like at some point, it just becomes that's God. There's no human way to understand it or explain it.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I love watching that stuff and talking about it because it is so interesting. There's so much proof for God, but there's so much confusion out there as well,
Mm.
especially if you read the Bible with no context, understanding history, knowing the times, the people, the places, and I had to dig deep into that to really understand it.
Yeah. Yeah, which also, very very good point and very true. It's less useful to me though because when I did mature enough to take all of that into account, that also played a part in me not being able to just simply have faith because then my brain started going, "Oh, okay, so maybe the book that's kind of supposed to be my guide along this path, maybe the book itself is actually a product of history and a product of the times and a product." I'll tell you what helped me a lot. I don't want to say helped me exactly, but there's a book I was reading. It's called Misquoting Jesus.
Hmm.
And it's not an argument from the author against God. It's a story from he started out very religious and went to a seminary somewhere. I don't remember where. And there was this assignment where he was supposed to basically he was supposed to compare these two stories in the New Testament, one from Mark, and I don't know if the other was from John or who, but it was Mark was one of them, and he was supposed to compare it with this other one because they contradict each other. I think it was the one where, like, I think Mark says the cock crowed 3 times before this
I think it
happened,
was it
and then
was
the
more.
other one says the cock crowed, and then this was said, and then the cock crowed, and so very minuscule difference, right? It doesn't actually change the moral of the story, but he was supposed to write about it. So he wrote a very long, convoluted explanation that was able to tie it all together. And then his professor gave him a good grade, but wrote a note on there and said, also, maybe Mark was just wrong, right? And that was a snapping point for him where he just went, oh, God, yeah, maybe this was written by people, and maybe there's just mistakes in it, and maybe that's okay. So
That's
that was also a point for me. And again, it's not about the story and it's not about the inconsistency, but it was another one of those moments in my life where I had to go, yeah, ultimately I'm either going to have faith in a book or in a god, but not necessarily both. So the book itself, being that it was written by men, I still have to say to myself, if my reality and if his creation, if that differs from what a man wrote at any point in time in any book, I still always have to follow the creation of his rather than the words that men wrote about his creation.
right.
I can make arguments for both sides, which I think
Oh
is
yeah.
healthy, but it's also annoying for me because when you can make really strong arguments for both sides,
Mhm.
then you're kind of left in a place where you don't know what you actually believe anymore.
Yeah. At some point, no matter who I talk to, at some point they have to make that leap of faith,
Yeah.
you know, and
And that's what I'm incapable of doing.
yeah, making that leap of faith, totally understandable.
And I could force it and I would feel amazing. I know I think about it more now with my family too because I think Christianity in and of itself as a culture, if
Is a
I
good
look at
thing.
it not as a belief system, not as a truth telling, but if I look at it simply as a culture, I know my kids would probably be better off raised within the culture of Christianity than raised within the current culture that doesn't
The
include
world, yeah,
Christianity. I feel
society.
like, of course, I can do well by them and teach them the things they need to know, but a lot of Christianity a lot of it is stories that teach lessons about morals and values and ethics. They're not just edicts from a god. It's not like God tells everybody what to do, everybody does what he says, and they live happily ever after. That's not what the Bible looks like when you read it. It's a set of stories about really big, deep subjects, like things that have plagued humankind for all time and eternity about what is a good man, what is a good woman, what is a good father, what is a good son, what is a good way to be in this world in such a way that you make it a better place. And I've considered, and I haven't made the decision, and I don't think I will end up making the decision to pretend to believe in God so that my children can grow up Christian with that culture surrounding them.
When I went to church for the first time, I just told myself I'm going to fake it till I make it. I thought that the church was full of hypocrites. And I'd go to church and I'd see these people raising their hands and stuff, and they're like, you know, feeling the spirit, and I was like, look at all these fake people, and I just kept going. I just One day I told my family, I was like, hey, we're going to start going to church, and we started going, and I just said, I'm going to fake it till I make it. And like 3 or 5 months later, I was like, you know what, these people are good people and they're happy because of their belief and faith in Christ. And I was like, I want that too. And once I made that leap, and I saw that these people are good people because they have faith and they're not fake, then it was much easier for me to say, let me do what they do, let me be like them, let me have that faith. And it just was so strong,
Yeah,
and so easy to do after that. Like once said, you know what, I surrender, let's do it your way.
yeah.
So
And that's the only line I can't cross so far. But I do hope, I'll tell you this, something I'm very proud of. My mother-in-law, a lot of Christians are hypocrites, and a lot of atheists are hypocrites. A lot of everybody
everybody everybody's a
hypocrites.
hypocrite.
I
Yeah.
will tell you this, my mother-in-law is a beautiful, beautiful woman, just inside and out. Her soul is a beautiful soul. She is religious. She does believe in God. And I could go through lists of examples, but just trust me and suffice to say, she's not one of the hypocritical ones. She is what everybody hopes Christianity can be.
Right.
And she believes she views me as a man of God. And she even bought me this coffee cup that said man of God once, and it was my favorite coffee cup, and when I broke it I was sad, and she bought me another one so I could still have the coffee cup that says man of God, because I know what she means.
Yeah.
What she means is you're a good man doing good things in the world and being a good husband to my daughter and a good father to my grandchildren. That's what she means to say. I can't cross that line of faith, and I don't
Mm.
believe that's even a choice I could make even if I wanted to, but then I literally would feel like I'm lying to God if I told
Mm.
God I believe, assuming he's real. If he's real and I said I believe in you while not actually truly believing, I would be lying to God, and I can't do that. But I will do everything just shy of that, which is to still raise my family with those same morals and values and ethics, and to try to continue to be the kind of man that the Bible would prompt me to be if I did, in fact, have that faith.
Yeah.
I'm
Fake
just
it till you
missing
make
that one little piece of actual internal, where I can be truthful with myself and actually say I believe. That's just the only thing. I'm not there.
it. I don't know this. Yeah, this would be great for the other channel.
Yeah, it would.
uh,
Well, you know what? I'm gonna leave it on the Handyman channel too, because it's not like, the people who are taking that leap and entering the arena and deciding that they're gonna make something better of their lives. The majority of them are fathers with children. And they're who I had in mind when I started the channel, was like, oh my God, I figured out a way to make just a little bit more money than I ever could have made if I'd have stayed in aviation. Because I made good money in aviation. There's a career there to be had. But that was my goal, was like, I've always felt stuck, and I've always felt insufficient, and I've always felt like I was under someone else's thumb and not able to give my family what they deserved. And now I figured out a way to give them more than I could have given them. And it doesn't cost me anything to just share the information, to just put it out there and go, hey, you guys in Tennessee, pretty sure you can do exactly what I'm doing and literally provide for your family better. And I
yeah,
think
that's
that's the bulk of this channel. So I don't think this conversation is only interesting to you and me, whether
yeah.
it's about religion, whether it's about military service, or any of that. I think it's all very valid. I appreciate the conversation we've had so far. It's been
No,
really nice to really just find subjects we're interested in and dive into them. And the
so,
religion it's always been and always will be a huge one for me. I
yeah.
don't know if I'll ever have faith again, um, but the Bible matters, and the
Yeah.
stories and the morals and the values and the ethics, all of that does matter. And being a good man matters more than anything. And I don't think many men can have faith, like true faith. I don't think you can have faith and believe in the Bible and go be a truly bad man in this world.
Right. Uh, what you're saying is like, you know, about deep conversations. Like, not everybody's a deep person. So many people in the world today are just like surface level. Just show me what's on TikTok, show me what's on Twitter, or whatever. And they don't even think deeply. They don't even know themselves.
Yeah.
And
And
I'm
they
glad
don't
that
want to.
we can have this conversation and just like go as deep as we want to.
Yep.
Um, just really dive deep in there. Yeah, man. No, this is a great conversation because it's rare to find people that you can actually have a good conversation with, because most people are led by their emotions. Whatever they're feeling at that moment, I'm hungry, I'm tired, I'm sleepy, I'm this, I'm that. They just go with their whatever their first emotion is, and then that's what they chase all day long.
Yeah.
Is
And if it's a
reaction.
negative emotion, they go away from it. And if it's a
Yeah,
positive emotion, they go towards it.
that's it. And it's like,
That's
oh, I just need some alcohol and I'll feel better.
yeah.
Whatever it is, I just need to buy something else and I'll feel better.
I'm
And
often envious of those people though, because a lot of people just it seems like they can have it so easy by just keeping it all so simple. Like there's
yeah.
times when I try to be open-minded about things. Do you know how hard it is to be truly open-minded about things, like to look at an issue that you've believed something about for there's a bunch of them right now. In fact, I'm not even going to bring them up on this channel because I don't need all kinds of crazy stuff in the comments. But I mean, there are things that I've spent my life saying and espousing and believing that I didn't look into because I didn't think I needed to look into them. That now I'm hearing lots of new information from a lot of different sources, and my brain's going, I don't have time for this right now. Like, I don't want to ignore it because, yeah, now I do realize there's a bunch of stuff I didn't look into because I assumed it was true because everybody said it was true. And now I'm finding new information and I'm literally going, I don't have time to look into this now. So I don't want to be the guy who doesn't look into anything and just like shuts down, sticks his head in the sand and says, nope, I've always been right. But at the same time, can we slow down the new information coming in just a little bit so I can I can reflect upon one thing at a time within myself
You need a
instead of
bar.
18.
You need a bar to measure something against, and that's where faith comes in. You have a measuring stick now versus trying to keep it all in your brain and make the decisions of right and wrong. Like, we already have a baseline. The baseline is the Bible, what's good, what's evil, and I want to be more of a good person than an evil person.
Yeah.
So many of our laws today and our morals, our values are actually based on biblical values, and people don't even understand it.
Well, the
Like,
entirety of Western society is based on Christian values.
right. And so many people today are trying to destroy that. They're moving further and further away from it.
No, and it's horrible. It's horrible. And it's again, it's one of those things when it comes to just wanting to be open-minded about things. There's a lot of things in society that I look at, a lot of on either side of the political spectrum where people take things very far. And I have to look at it and go, okay, well, I can agree with this. Like, pick a statement, doesn't matter what the statement is, but pick a political statement you've heard recently.
Mm-hmm.
It's an extreme in either direction. Pick the statement and then ask yourself, can I put myself in the shoes of somebody who would agree with this? And could I make that argument from their shoes as to why that argument's right? And I can. I can make highly moral, highly ethical arguments as to why that's correct from that person's perspective. And then I can simultaneously make the argument that not only is it not right, but it's literally evil and will harm the world. And then
Yeah.
if I dive in deep enough, I can even get to the point where I go, okay, yeah, I'm satisfied. This is harmful to the world,
Mm-hmm.
while at the same time agreeing that yes, people have certain rights to be and or believe certain things in certain ways. And the dangerous part is if you get too deep down into that quagmire, then number one, you don't know what you believe anymore. And if you don't know what you believe, you can't act in the world. You can't say that you're acting morally and ethically if you don't even know what you believe to be the right thing to do. My
Right.
secret weapon, that luckily doesn't really ever seem to veer very far at all from Christian teachings. My secret weapon is I have kids now, and
Hmm.
I can logically and intelligently analyze what decisions should we make, politically or otherwise, about the direction we move society in. And I can look at my children and go, if we go with this direction, what life is that going to give my kids? Are they going to have a
Right.
better life or a worse life? And by better or worse, I don't mean have more food in their bellies or have like good AC, right? I mean, what's going to fulfill them spiritually? Because I don't think you need a God even for spirituality, but
Right.
what's going to fulfill them spiritually? What's going to make them feel throughout the entirety of their lives that they're a part of something that matters, that they have meaning, that they have purpose, and that they're doing the right thing by the world and by their children. So for me, whatever leads the path that's going to give them a fulfilling, moral, ethical life, and that's going to make it so that they are existing within a society that works well and that they can have their own children in and pass down those morals and values to their children. Whatever accomplishes that goal is politically, generally speaking, the direction I'm going to take.
I want to make 2 points, um, because I think that more and more, it's like people are trapped in the rat race, right? It's like make more money so I can buy more stuff so I can be happy. But then I'm never satisfied. So I need to make more
Never going
money,
to work.
buy more stuff. And they're trying to find satisfaction in something that is elusive, and I'll turn it back to religion. It's like you got to find your happiness in something that has a higher purpose.
Yeah.
And also, like for the guys on the channel, it's like talking about motivation. Motivation 2.0 is what is going to make people truly happy in whatever job they do. And there's three things that Daniel Pink talks about in his book Motivation 2.0, and it's autonomy, mastery, and purpose. So autonomy is like being able to decide who you work with, when you work on something, how you work on something, just having the ability to make decisions. And then mastery is obviously getting better and better at something. And purpose, it has to be for a higher purpose than just making money or whatever, making widgets. It has to be for like the good of people or for the country or for your family. There has to be those three things for you to be truly satisfied in your career field, whatever that is.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with that more. I literally could not agree. I don't think I would add or take away anything. Maybe I would maybe I would edit mastery and say it's the pursuit of mastery.
Right.
The journey that you are on to get there with incremental process along the way.
Yeah.
Which may already be what he meant, I don't know, but yeah. Autonomy is I think the bedrock. If you don't have autonomy, then you literally don't own yourself, so you are nobody.
Right. Clock
And then
in,
the
clock out,
mastery.
look forward to the weekend.
Yeah, no, that's not the life to live for
No.
sure. So, yeah, I'd agree with all that 100%. Just missing that one little piece of the actual internal irrefutable undeniable faith. Is it there or is it not? And
Yeah. Well, we'll
for
work on it,
me,
man.
not.
Don't say no, just say maybe.
Well, no, that's what I can't. I can say maybe. I can't say I'll work on it because then I'm now pursuing something I can pursue
Wait, hold
that
on. It's
faith.
not your job to pursue. God will pursue you.
Well, that's what
So
I say all the time. I
yeah, so
tell if people ask me, and this doesn't come from me, this actually comes from Christopher Hitchens. Just to be clear, I'm not
oh, I
such
know
a
him.
genius. I made this up, but Christopher Hitchens, when asked what would be enough, except for him, the question was what would be enough evidence. I'm not looking for evidence. I don't make a choice to have faith or not have faith. Faith, I don't think, is something you can choose. You have it or you don't. But when he's asked what evidence would be sufficient for you to believe in God, his answer is, I don't know. But you know who does know? God knows exactly what it would take for me to believe in him. So maybe someday,
Yeah.
whatever that thing is will show up, but I won't pursue it. I'll leave it to God whether or not that's going to be put in my path, and if it is, hopefully I recognize it for what it is, and maybe I get to be, because like I said, I miss God. I really do.
Some
I
people have
miss
to
the faith.
reach rock bottom, to really find their faith. And a lot of people avoid rock bottom, avoid it at all costs. They like to live in this comfort. Normal people live in this comfortable level right here. I'm out here. I'm got the high highs and the low lows.
Yeah.
And so I've reached rock bottom multiple times, and everybody else just likes to live in that comfort zone, and they don't really know what anything about
I'm
themselves
on the
because they've never
roller
had hard
coaster
times.
plan.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. I mean, we're adventurous. We're risk takers. We're willing to, be out there on the edge and do things that other people aren't able to do.
Yep. And speaking of that, the book that set me, I don't know if you've heard me say this. I've mentioned it maybe once or twice on the channel, but the book that set me on the path that I took in life. There was a very sharp fork in the road, very definite fork in the road, and it was Walden by Henry David Thoreau. And my junior year of high school, this teacher thought I was a romantic, and I didn't even know what that meant. I thought that was like relationship wise or something. Learned later on what that meant, but she gave me Walden by Henry David Thoreau because she thought that it would internally affect me, and she was so right, because this whole, this roller coaster that we choose to be on,
Hmm.
I think you're probably like me. I enjoy the highs and I enjoy the lows in the
Hmm.
most backwards way. They're both equally valuable and meaningful to me. But Henry David Thoreau said, I came to the woods um, to see if I could not learn what it had to teach. There's a whole paragraph, and it ends with, and not when I came to die, discover that I had not yet lived.
Yeah, that's horrible.
And that
That's horrible.
changed everything for me.
People die with
It
their
was,
dreams, man.
yeah, exactly.
People die
So,
with their dreams.
but yeah, it's definitely, I would rather, it would be easier to be an atheist, like a hardcore, because I don't call myself an atheist. I just simply have a lack of a
I
faith.
don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It would be easier to be an atheist, because if I was an atheist, if I was I could just be a committed hardcore atheist. I could memorize all the atheist talking points, argue with all the religious people, know for sure where I stand, and have all my values, all my morals, and all my ethics set by my 100% hardcore atheist beliefs. And in a weird way, it's harder being in the middle, because it's the same thing with politics. I don't agree with Republicans or Democrats on not even everything, on
Right.
half of each of what they want. But it's hard being in the middle, because I can't even just attach myself to a tribe and say, haha, here's my tribe. I'll fight for you.
The
It's the
technical
middle
term for
zone.
that is agnostic.
That is the technical term for it. But
Yeah.
even when you dive into the technical term for agnostic,
Hmm.
agnostic implies a lack of caring what the answer is, even. An
I think
agnostic
it's
isn't
more of
even
lack
too
of knowledge.
concerned with whether there is or isn't a God. Whereas
Hmm.
for me, I'm super concerned, because
Yeah.
if there is a God, um, I might be in some trouble when this is all over. I don't believe I will be. I do have faith that if God is real, then he knows me the way that he should know me.
He's a good God,
And I
and you're a good
believe that
person.
regardless of whether I do or don't accept that Jesus Christ died for my sins, if he built me and he knows me, I think he will know in my heart that I literally tried as hard as I could
Yeah.
every single day for the 87 years that he gives me, or however long it ends up being. I do believe that he will know that I tried as hard as I could. I did everything in my power to recognize that this entire world is a gift. My family is a gift. You're a gift. This YouTube channel is a gift. My property, everything that exists, it's all a gift. I
Mhm.
didn't have to exist. I, there was nothing written in stone that I had to exist to appreciate all of this. But the one thing that I know internally, that I know he must know, is I appreciate it. And I
Mhm.
do see it as a gift, and I'm doing what I can to make sure that I leave it better than I found it.
100%.
I think
God is
you'll
good,
value.
and you have a great heart. You have a great heart, and you know, people have that come to Jesus meeting at different times in their life, you know, and hopefully, God forbid, it's, you know, something horrible happens to us, and it's like, and then we turn to God. But at some point, something happens to people, and they turn to Christ. So, you know, it's just not your time, and you don't have to force it. You just have to chill.
Yeah.
That's what I feel like. When I first became a Christian, I was like, I had to talk about it all the time, and I had
Yeah.
to, you know, talk to my friends about why they're not Christians and blah blah blah. And then I was just like, it's not my job to recruit people. You know, it's just my job to just be a good person.
Yeah, your job's to set the example, to just
Yeah.
be a good man, a good husband, a good father, and try to make everything around you better.
Yeah. I want people to like point at me and be like, what's wrong with that guy? You know, why is he so different? Like, why is he not scared? Why doesn't he have anxiety or fear or whatever?
Yeah,
And it's like, because I have faith in something.
yeah.
Dang it. This is good conversation. I don't
It
know.
is.
We were talking about handyman stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh
It's
man.
all valuable to everybody. I'm definitely gonna want to have you back on. How long have we been on? 2.5. Yeah. I will have to get to my family here pretty quick.
No, that's
And
great.
so do you as well.
Yeah.
This has been super great, but I 100% want to have you back on. Maybe for either channel,
Okay.
both channels. I think there's probably a lot more handyman stuff we can go over that's valuable, and it's very clear to me that I feel like we could do one of these once a month,
Yeah, man.
and just
That'd be
never
great.
run out of new things to philosophize over and delve
Yeah.
into. And I
It
think
could be
that's
a
part of the
special.
whole thing is it's a journey. It's
Yeah.
a path. You're on a new journey right now with your handyman thing. I'm on a new journey with a YouTube thing, and a lot of
Yeah.
people watching are about to start new journeys into all types of things. But
Yeah.
life is
It's
meant to be
always
lived. I know we would agree on that.
it's always fun to meet cool people, you know? And then we just so happen to be interested in the same things, and you know, and you've taught me so much, so it's, you know, I really appreciate it, and you're a good influence out there, so I would love to be back on the channel and just talk about whatever. We could talk about anything.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it then. So, how about we go ahead and cut this one? And
Yes,
just
sir.
thank you very much for coming on, and to everybody watching. I love you guys. I hope you're out there killing it, and I'll see y'all on the next one.
All right, bye guys, thank you.